They were talking about the energy of a leader. So what I'm going to do is draw a few things for you, and hopefully this will be helpful to you as you plan your leadership team and plan how your team moves forward together. Here's what we're going to begin with. There are 4 things that leaders have to focus on every single week, and I'm just going to write them up. The first one is that leaders have to focus on ideas. They have ideas. Ideas are things that would move us forward in ministry. They would help us to gain a momentum. They'd help us with a quality or a quantity of people who are attending. And so every leader has ideas that they want to implement into the ministry. And out of all those different ideas, we hope that they select only a few things to do, and we call those things goals. Goals are those ideas we want to implement in order to move forward in ministry. There's lots of things we could do, but there's only a few things we should do, and that's what the goals are. And then third, there are these things called systems. Systems are how we organize. They're how we organize our people. They're how we organize our ministries, our maturity pathways, other things like that. And every one of us has to have systems in place. A system could be a financial system, or it could be a child's check-in. But all of us have to have systems. Systems are there for recurring issues we want to repeat over and over and reproduce in ministry. And then finally, we have this one called problems. Every church, every ministry, every organization has problems. These are the unforeseen things that come up and you have to deal with in your ministry. And so every single week, the leader is here kneeling before God, trying to figure out what they're supposed to do, how many ideas they need to come up with, the goals they want to have based on those ideas, the systems they want to implement, and the problems they need to face every single week. And so here's what I found, that most of us are energized by a few of these things. In fact, most of us are energized by 1 or 2 of them. We're adequate in the third, but we're completely drained by the fourth. I want to talk about these people. And so I'm going to distinguish the 4 of them. Let's talk about this. There are certain people that are motivated and energized by these ideas and goals areas. What I know about these people is they're very futuristic in the way that they think and they act. They're always ahead. They're always looking forward. They have these ideas, and out of those they have these goals they want to accomplish. I call these people, they're visionaries. A visionary is someone who looks to the future. There are 3 things that leaders do. They define reality, they dream of a future, and they design a path. These are the dreamers. These are the ones that look forward to the things that are going to happen, the what ifs of life. So we call them visionaries. There's also these other people who love goals as well, but they also believe in systems. They're much more strategic in the way that they think. They have a foot in the future, but they also have a foot in the present. And what these people are so good at doing is taking the ideas and the dreams of a visionary leader and putting them into plans and strategies and structures and things like that. I'm going to call this person an implementer. An implementer makes vision real. They put feet onto the hope and the dreams of the leadership. The third group are these people. They also love systems, and they really actually enjoy problems. Now, for a guy like me, it's hard to believe anyone likes problems, but some people love to engage in problems. These people, if you notice, their whole life is in the present. They love to take what they have and maximize it. They love to make the best of it. The word excellence is an important word to these people. But they're really not about the future. They'll take what they have and they'll do the very best they can. Imagine, if you will, a person that has a loaf of bread. This kind of person here, this person would take the loaf of bread and they'll slice it in ever thinner slices in order to make sure that everyone gets a piece of it. They find a way to maximize what they have. A visionary would handle it differently. A visionary would say, well, let's go get another loaf of bread. We don't have enough for everybody. And they find a way to expand. So these guys would expand, but these guys would make things excellent. We call these people managers. And this final group is the group down here at the bottom. Notice also that these people have a foot both in the present and the future, but whereas these people are focusing on the practical side of ministry, these will focus on the conceptual side, on the theory side of ministry. They again have a foot in both worlds, but they love to take problems and give you ideas on how to solve those problems. They're problem solvers. We're going to call these people 2 words. It depends. If they're people, we'll call this person a counselor. If they're task kind of people, we'll call them a consultant. So we have visionaries who live their whole life in the future. We have managers who live their whole life in the present. We have implementers who are very on the practical side, create strategies and structures. And we have counselors, consultants that give you the ideas about what you could do in ministry. Now, here's the other part of this whole scenario. Each one of these types of personalities has an attention span. And they're very, very different. If you've been around these different personalities, then probably you already know which one you are based on the description that I've given already. But there's an attention span. There's a time frame which they have focus. And for example, the visionaries, what I've found in ministry is that visionaries need a new vision, need a new idea, need a new goal about every 90 days. This is why a lot of lead pastors will speak in they'll speak in series. They'll go 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and they'll do another series because they're very visionary, and they need a new challenge every 90 days or so. An implementer has a much longer time frame. They're about every 2 years that they need something new. They can focus on something all the way through the conceptual part of it, and then through the first phase of it, the first implementation of it. But after a while, once it's about 80% done, they want to give this up to somebody else. Will someone please take this because I'm off and I want to do something brand new in ministry. This person that they give it to typically is a manager. Managers have an amazing attention span. In fact, their attention span goes about 20 years. 20 years. Not 2 years, not 90 days, but 20 years. They can do the same thing over and over and over and over and over, and they just don't get bored with it. These are the kind of people that are accountants and some teachers and some others, but they just like things to stay the same, and they try to maximize and make them excellent. And then finally, you've got these people at the bottom, the counselors and consultants. Let me ask you a question. If you go to a counselor, how long are you in their office? 30 minutes, maybe an hour. Let's just give them a benefit of the doubt. Let's just say 90 minutes. These are your dreamers. These are your schemers. These are your creatives. These are the ones that want to change everything. A lot of worship pastors come into this area where they want to change the worship service every single week. A whole lot of people are in this area. So you've got these attention spans that you have to deal with. Here's some typical staff. Typically, a lead pastor is in the visionary category. An executive pastor is in the implementer category. A lot of the administrative staff are here in the manager category, and the creatives, whether it's drama or graphic arts or music or whatever, tend to be in this area. So here's the question: which one are you, and which ones are on your team? Now, let me talk about this a little bit more, because what I find in this scenario is this. Very often, there's a visionary leader who's out there leading the pack, and what he thinks he needs is stability. And so what he surrounds himself with is just the opposite. I need to be stable, and so I got to have people around me. And so when he chooses staff and he chooses a board, he typically chooses the manager types, because number one, he hates that stuff, and he's just not sure he can do that stuff. He needs people who are going to be stable and make sure it happens. The problem with that is very often managers like things the way they are. They don't like change, and yet the visionary lives for change. They always want to have change in their lives. And so there's this conflict. And what I found is in these personalities, when you don't have anything in common with each other, then you tend to have problems with those people. Visionaries see managers as slow to change. Managers see visionaries as reckless. Same thing's true in implementers and counselor consultants. Implementers look at counselor consultants and say they're all talk and no action. And counselor consultants say, you know what, you guys are kind of prideful because you think there's only one way to do things, and you move forward too quickly without enjoying the moment of ideation and creation and thinking through things. And so you have to work with each other. I know a lot of churches where the visionary leader has chosen a board that are all managers. And here's the thing, even though they're called visionaries think that vision is verbal. And so what they do more than anything else is they talk and talk and talk and talk about the vision. They use their voice, they use the pictures in their head, but they never actually write it down. They never actually show people what it's like. Managers are just the opposite. To managers, vision is not verbal, vision is visual. They have to see it to believe it. Let me give you an example from my own life as a pastor. There were years ago at the church that I was at, I thought we should go multi-site. And I went to my board and said, hey, we should go multi-site. And to a person, they said, absolutely not. We could never do that. I can't understand. Why would we do that? We love being the size church we are. We love what we have. They didn't want to go there. And so what I did with them is I, first of all, had them read a book called Multi-Site Revolution. And then there was an opportunity with a friend of mine who had a church where he said, listen, why don't you come over to my church and do this experiment? So I went to the church and I brought the board and I brought the staff and said, hey guys, let's just pretend like we were given this church. And let's just imagine what would we do with this church if we did. And so we all got involved in this activity. And by the end of the day, all these people who were on the manager side realized, you know what, we could actually do this. We saw where the children's ministry would go. We saw where the worship ministry would go. We saw where the worship experience would be, where the students would be. We saw all the things that could happen in this new building. And because we experienced it, because we didn't just hear about it, but we saw it and experienced it, we were able to make that change. This whiteboard leadership moment is about energy in ministry. So a couple questions you want to ask. Number one is, which one am I? Which one am I? Am I a visionary? Do I live my whole life in the future? Am I an implementer? Do I have one foot in the future and one foot in the present? Do I love to create strategies and structures to make things move forward? Am I a manager? Am I someone who takes things that are already existing and take what I have and I just make it excellent, the best I can possibly make it? Or am I a counselor, a consultant, a creative who loves to take new ideas and find new ways of doing things and talk about those things? Which one am I? And then which ones do I have on my team? Where are my teammates? If you're a visionary, the most important person you can possibly have on your team is an implementer. I see a lot of lead pastors who talk about where we're headed as a church and here's what we're going to do. And then you watch them. If you watch them closely, they'll turn back around to the implementer on their team and says, we can do that, right? And the implementer has 3 or 4 ways to show them, yeah, we can do this way, or this way. But if they don't have that person in place, then they're probably scaring all the managerial types who are in their business or their movement or in their church. Again, on personality types, I want to mention a few more things about this drawing. If you're a goals kind of person, then you're really proactive in what you do. If you're a problem kind of person, you're fairly reactive in what you do. If you're an ideas person, you become very creative and very much out there guessing and looking forward to the future. If you're a systems person, you're trying to create a recurring opportunity to fix things, whereas an idea person looks at new opportunities and new things. And so very different personalities, but all these personalities are necessary in God's kingdom. All these personalities are necessary in the church. And I hope you've enjoyed this whiteboard leadership. This has been a Converge Whiteboard Leadership moment. To learn more about Converge or to join us, check out converge.org.